Good morning.
Happy
Good
Halloween.
morning.
Happy Hallows Eve.
Eve. Friends and gamers on the interwebs that are now going to see our amazing outfit. I'm Rachael Blaske.
And I'm Julie Ahern.
And this is episode 8. 2 months we've been doing this.
Yeah.
Of You're Invited. And in this episode, Julie, VP and COO of Greenbrier Games, myself, owner of Poketto, formerly known as 524 Labs, will chat over a good cup of coffee, usually cold
Cheers,
by the time I get here. Cheers. Talking about tabletop industry news and a topic that we feel is an important part of running a board game company, all the while discussing your comments and questions in the live chat because you are invited. Though I don't know if you want to be invited to this party.
Of course you do.
Because I look like I have had a moment. My son doesn't want to look at me. So good.
This episode is brought to you by Arcane Wonders, now on Kickstarter with Freedom 5, a Sentinels comic board game, and it's the newest game in both the Sentinels of the Multiverse and Defenders of the Realm game series, and right now it's funded at around 700%. So
way to go, Arcane Wonders. And did you know that we ask a question on Instagram and Facebook every Monday to give you a chance to win a game? So this week it is Ninja Dice. And Julie, what is Ninja Dice?
Ninja Dice is a push-your-luck dice game. It's obviously in a super cute package, but it also is a game where you're rolling to find out what house you're trying to infiltrate, which will have inhabitants, the homeowners, guards, and locks, and then you're rolling your skills to try to pick the locks and either sneak or fight past the guards and the people. And while you're rolling, everybody else is also rolling, trying to steal each other's loot. And it's not just what you roll, it's also the orientation of the die that matters.
Ooh, so last week, Suzanne from Nerds Garage won Cinder. And now you have one more chance right now to enter by sharing this stream right now. And any shares in this first 5 minutes is going to have another entry to win. So I'm going to give you guys 10 seconds. Arm your clicker over the share button and see how many we can get to join us on this spooky, spooky morning. Excellent. What do we got for the news?
News. So we saw that there were a lot of games coming out, but it seems like, those announcements we could be the whole time talking about. So really the only thing I'm going to share today for news is that Metatopia is next weekend. We're getting to the end of the convention season, and this is one that is near and dear to my heart because it is oriented around designers. So registration is free. We have a lot of good publishers who are going to be speaking at it, and there's a lot of great games being made by creative people who don't always get a high profile in the industry. So if you want to see new talent and diverse talent, as a publisher, I strongly recommend you attend and play some games. I know they were still looking for people for the publisher speed dating kind of event on Saturday night. So if you head over to Envoys or see Avanel's page where they're still looking for people, I will be one of the people mentoring those designers so that your presentation is a slightly more polished when you, if you decide to choose to listen, receive that information. Mm-hmm. So I hope that everybody out there who's watching who's a publisher attends, and anybody who's a designer, or anybody who's in the industry who just wants to listen in on some of the really cool panels that are going on. So that's next weekend.
Can't wait. It's going to be just really great to have a chance to hear from everybody in the industry. I really like the panels, and that's no secret. So I think we should take a look and see who is in our chat this morning. Oh my goodness. It's so good to see everybody. Good morning. Good morning.
Martin Poole has deigned to join us this morning.
Oh yes, and he's telling us, hurry up. He's got a meeting.
I know, he's full of the sass, which by the way, I met Martin around Halloween at Essen several years ago, where he was told he needed to bring me chocolates.
I mean,
or I might get really angry at him. And this was not something I told him. This was somebody in my company who told him that, unbeknownst to me. And so all of these people who were asking for games for reviews were like coming up to me and bringing me candy and asking very like fearfully if they could have. And of course they were on the list of games. Like I had a list of people who were coming to pick up games for reviews. And I was like, yep, here you go. And they're like, here you go. Here's some candy. I was like, okay, thanks. All the while knowing that I can't usually eat chocolate because it has milk in it and I'm allergic. Martin was the first one that ratted Walter out. So that's how that. So happy Halloween, tricks and treats still.
So, and we also have Amy in here this morning. We'll get to hear about her later. Then we've got, I think that we blew Jordan's mind. This was really fun. I terrified my 9-year-old. It's good times around here. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, She-Hulk or Wicked Witch? Okay.
It was the Wicked Witch of the West, but the hat with the headphones doesn't quite work. I will say that I showed a picture to my niece and nephew and my sister, and they said they think I'm more of a Glinda, which I thought was really sweet.
Yes, and Sharon Madden over the Dice Tower, she loves watching to see what the heck we do.
Morning, Sharon.
What do we look like? It's a good fun time. Blaske having a blasty. Oh, I'm gonna send you a little story after this, Martin, about blasts and explosives. I'll tell you about it later. Remote learning seems to really be getting to you. Hey, I sent my kids back this last week, and I am a new person. So
that's right.
It's good stuff. Hi, Marshall. I love seeing everybody. Hi, everyone. Okay, well, so today, we need to remind everybody who is new and old to our show, which is getting kind of old. I feel kind of like maybe
we're seasoned.
Season. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. You want to talk about what a season is?
Absolutely. So, having done this now for a couple weeks and planning on doing it for a couple more.
8.
We thought that it would be nice to do them in seasons. So this first one was figuring out what we wanted to do, kind of getting our format down. We're getting there, I hope. But we're going to end each season with a Q&A session so that it kind of puts a cap on it and then start the next one.
Yes, and we want to hear what you guys have liked. I know we have several that tune in every week and have watched.
And thank you for that.
Let's learn and grow and get better at different parts of this. And I just would love to hear what you guys think we could do better and what we could, what you want to see in the future. And that is super cool. So,
because as we're trying to give our knowledge to everybody out there who is interested in learning, we'd love to get some knowledge back.
yes, I really care about what you guys have to say. So, those again, if you are new or old, we have a way to click the three dots up in the upper right hand corner. So you can choose to be notified every time we go live. That's on the Facebook platform. We'll also have a link to our YouTube account in the description box below so you can subscribe and find our archived shows after streaming. And I just have to say, I've had a really punny week. And so on Wednesday, one of our posts was, did you miss us slay last Friday?
Because make you laugh at your own jokes. It's amazing.
It's
it's such a mom thing. I love it.
I think I'm really funny. I'm sorry.
You have to laugh at your own jokes.
And then I was like, were you too dead to see us? Because I was a vampire. And then finally we're like, watch us reanimate on YouTube every week. My kids were rolling their eyes so far back in their head they could have been their own cosplay. So.
Nice.
All right.
So our topic this week.
Let me go ahead and pop that on here. Our topic and our question, first of all, that we talked about during the week was horror games for you or not for you. And our topic itself is horror-themed gaming and how it polarizes audiences. What does that mean to publishers, retailers, all of us? It's an emotional discussion because some people enjoy the rush and the adrenaline of fear. And so there's that entire part of our culture. And then some of us want to live a little bit on the safe side. And
well, so there's a reason behind that.
Yeah.
There's actually, so you can read this. This has been researched over many years about the psychology of why we like to be afraid. And it's not just horror movies or, reading the Walking Dead comic books. It's also anybody who does thrill seeking of any kind, parachutes, bungee jumping, riding a motorcycle, or, an all-terrain vehicle, ATV. Yeah, I had to say it out fully before I could remember the acronym.
Hey, it's Friday.
It's a thing. There's a reason behind it. So we are not just human beings who are lovely and delightful and unique. We're also mammals, which are animals, which means we have built-in instincts of fight-flight response that have been hardwired into our DNA for millennia. And that means that we are expected to have these bursts of adrenaline when in danger. We have built a society that hasn't really reflected those. Well, we'll leave that to the side. But mostly we're safe in our homes. And so we have built in safeguards where we don't get those adrenaline responses nearly as frequently. And therefore, we have started to build in things that will give us that adrenaline jolt, that fight-flight response, not just because we're missing it and, so we're looking for it instinctually, but also because there's actual side health benefits, heart health, for occasionally getting that adrenaline jolt. Now, too much of it, and of course, then that is bad. And it's dependent on the person. So the lower number of neuroreceptors that you have to receive those adrenaline, the more easily frightened you are. So if you're somebody who just doesn't like going to scary, like the haunted houses and everything, you're like, I get too scared. There's actually a chemical reason for that. And it's okay. That means that you're hardwired for a lower point of getting the fight-flight response. And that's just a thing. That's all right. Some people have a lot of those neurotransmitters and need to jump out of planes, which is never going to be my thing.
Right.
Board games, I think, are mostly a happy medium where you can get something spooky, but again, in a much safer and contained way. So that is the psychology behind why we like to be scared and why there is value in having spooky board games.
And as an aside, I did hear this week, that cortisol, the stress hormone that is in your brain, is affected by piles. So if you have piles all over your house, you're automatically stressed and terrified. Like that's just how I that's my own haunted house, is I have piles everywhere. So when you're dealing with polarizing themes that are not an automatic go-to for everybody in the hobby gaming world. I mean, you go sci-fi or fantasy, that's a wide net, like you'd said. But if you take it into a scary place, and a lot of people who play with their kids, their families, or whatever, you have a very tough sell in some situations. And what I would encourage and have done a lot of research into is, how do you target an audience that is the type that want to jump out of an airplane versus be afraid of piles in their house? So
how does one do that?
How does one do that? I think that there's a lot of ways that you can integrate into different communities to kind of learn a little bit about what attracts them. It's market research. I think that there are interests that you can target in Facebook ad campaigns, Google ad campaigns, different ways to integrate into your local community. Maybe you find the haunted house organization team, and they're going to know people who are interested in that. And if any of them are interested in board games, you've got different ways to connect there. But to also, to one of your points, strike a balance where you don't go so far down the horror spectrum that it is still approachable to a reasonable audience set. Like, for example,
I'm gonna
yeah,
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there a little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I'm saying in that general, like, your genre, like, that's your niche. And we were talking about this last night. We're like, you've got
it's knowing where you're right. If you're trying to, what net are you trying to cast? And that to me is super important, because if you know that it's going to be something, and Kurt, my emotional twinsy,
right.
is in the chat saying exactly this, that you have to know what you're going for. What feels are you going for in a game? Are you going for the everybody family friendly, everybody's having an enjoyable time, everybody's joking? The most of the emotional response is laughter or humor? Or are you going for a game where the engagement is tension and stress? Because that is still engagement.
Yes. You're on the edge of your seat. You're completely involved.
Right.
And so, and I would say the packaging also is part of that marketing. So, for example,
people know what they're getting. That's right.
You've got this beautiful box that has engaging art and things like that. Whereas this little thing right here, that is incredibly approachable because of the size, and a little ambiguous because of the lack of, gory art, but it has like icons and things.
But you can tell it's a mystery and it's something slightly spooky.
Right. This is slightly spooky. It has skulls on it. It has this eye. And this is a game that I have on Kickstarter right now that's summoning demons and gaining favor with blood. It is dark. It is like, I mean, a lot of people will look at that and go,
it's my favorite game right now.
It's dark. And I when we picked this game up, I thought to myself, this is dark, but the gameplay is solid. Like, this is a good game, and I want to talk to Nathan and see if I can do this, because it's good.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of, like, we were taking games to church to play while the kids were busy, and That
Know
was
your
where
audience. There you go. Circling
know
back
your
to your
audience.
audience.
Don't take it church, play it. But I mean, you obviously you have your own boundaries. So I think that one of the cool things is trying to be aware of what your audience needs, wants, and expects from your company based on the past. And if you are a horror genre niche, like this gorgeous green witch right here,
Where is she? Which way is this? Yes, there we go.
it's beautiful.
We clearly knew, marketing wise, that this was going to be a very specific demographic. We
Yes,
marketed it as such.
right. It's like that with anything.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to make a game about gardening, you're going to go find gardeners to talk to and make sure that it all works. If you're going to make something about, I don't know, candy, mint, I don't know, you go find all the Candyland people. I don't know, whatever. But you have you've done so much research into this because this is not only the genre that you choose to produce,
Mm-hmm.
this is your passion and your love, and this is so your thing. So you
Correct.
have a
But you
top
also
five.
start to find, like, so to that point, I have been to lots of horror themed conventions. I have been to a lot of comic book conventions. It's not just board games because horror, horror, horror
Yeah.
um, is something that's so in some ways it's more universal than board games. But then of that universal experience, what attracts people who like horror to board games, because it doesn't always give you that adrenaline rush. So what is the balance there? And that's tricky too, because I can bring a Apocalypse, which is an RPG-ish campaign, much like Folklore, campaign style tabletop game. So it has lots of components, it has lots of moving parts. It's a sandboxy kind of game. And I find that the comic book and horror fans of like horror movies and stuff like that are looking for a lighter weight game experience and probably would actually do better with less and dark.
Yeah. I mean,
So
there's
where do you find that balance is
yes.
something that you also have to, and of course I'm going to make this game because for me it's a labor of love, but I'm going to be smart about not always making every game that way.
Right.
And going down and quickly, I'm going to give you like 5 games that are across the board of the scary theme that show you how varied the genre can be. So of my top 5 of each genre. So Arkham Horror,
Mm-hmm.
which is another big box, sandboxy, a lot of moving parts, a lot of components, game that takes a long time to play and has that campaign kind of style and feel. But it was the first one to do it, so it's it's one where people who have been influenced by it,
Right.
like me.
Very
Um,
classic. Yes.
and it uses that constant frustration of not being able to achieve your goals easily to emulate that going insane and seeing these monsters. So it's using tension, a constant amount of tension over a long period of time to emulate those feels. Uh, this War of Mine, similar, but even more because it's not a fantasy setting, but it's an actual what would war feel like, and the choices that you make storyline have very serious repercussions that are more emotionally devastating, which is fascinating to me because you have the people who take that emotion. Another game, the Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr, where you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
balance keeping somebody alive with getting information from them. You can see the people who buy into the emotion of it versus the people who are like, what's the most efficient way to win the game? It's fascinating. That to me is a
Oh yeah.
fascinating study.
Yeah.
So, this War of Mine, um, Vampire the Masquerade, and all its iterations. I
Mm-hmm.
love that they're coming out with new games, and they've, the IP has now expanded into Flyos, Renegade, making new things of it. But Vampire the Masquerade was my first LARPing experience, and it is one. So you're doing something that is putting yourself into the horror genre and somewhat acting it out and seeing what those motivations are, which is another thing about self reflection, I think, and the engagement of it. And then we have nyctophobia.
And
Much
so,
lighter weight, but the impact of having to not being able to see and physically having your hand and being terrified that you're going to touch the wrong thing and be caught. So good. So smart. And then
nice.
finally, Mysterium.
Mhm.
Mysterium is probably the one I've played the most because it is genre-wise more accessible. So yes, is it terribly scary? No. Does it have that fun, spooky feel like sleepovers, slumber parties? Absolutely. Can I get it to the table more frequently than the first three? Completely and totally. And I feel like Horrified is in that genre. You have other games like that, so you're talking about casting a wider net at that point.
Right.
Those,
And I didn't talk to you about this, so I'm just curious. Top recommendation for this weekend when you're going to be stuck in your house with your kids because we don't get to go out and do a bunch of trick or treating. I know it's even outlawed in several counties right now. So give us one that you can play with your kids and one that you can play after your kids go to bed with your husband or significant other.
me?
Yes, you.
Oh,
I'm here.
play
You
with
know,
your
I don't
kids.
know.
Okay, so I think play with your kids. I think social deduction games. They're not my go-to, but I feel like kids really like that feeling of community. And I think
Like werewolf or what?
no, not werewolf. That's to me that's too scary for. So like when John Charles does not like to be scared. He's 10
Mm-hmm.
and he has no problems. Somebody teases him and is like, "Well, you're a baby because you don't like to be scared." He's like, "No, I just don't like to be scared, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that." Like he's like
And that's me, and it's
very good
okay.
at self-advocating, and he would not play. He wouldn't play any of the scarier ones, but Vampire's Feast, Jelly Bean games, where you
Okay.
can be all of the monsters are spooky but silly,
Cool.
is perfect. So you could be Dracula's Feast. You could be Dracula, or you could be Alucard, who's a poser and wants to be Dracula, and he wins the game automatically if somebody accuses him of being Dracula
Nice.
because he was successfully a poser. So it's silly and spooky and thematically. So I
I
would,
would also throw in zombie kids too.
yeah.
Zombie kids and zombie kids evolution. Those would be my
And
kids
then
like
my
those.
best two-player for
Yeah.
just the grown-ups would be Tiny Epic Zombies.
Ooh.
That's actually does quite well in a 1 and 2 player. It has a solo play. I think it does well as a 2-player game. And for all talking about tiny games, it packs a lot of stuff into a small box, and you have different scenarios, and it has that zombie apocalypse feel. Hi, Phil. Yes, zombies. I know. And well, we know.
It's a thing. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and pop back out here to see what is your top tip, man? Let me see here. I have not been good with the overlays today. I just kind of like, I'm
Doing the thing.
here we go.
Where are you in the? So that was my list of where are you in the design spectrum, and does it offset the scare factor? Does it up it? And be aware of what you're doing so that you know who you're targeting.
Yes, absolutely. And mine is know your audience and marketing strategies because there are different ways. There is always someone for every game. You have to find them. You have to find enough of them and do your research. Like when I was looking at this, my last week's tip was research, and I'm like, I should just leave it. It's like, no. So, what's everybody chatting about? Zombie craze. Phil sounds like he just woke up. He's like, hello. Oh, Kim, Mask of the Red Death. Have you played that one?
I have, and I do not care for it.
That's
I
okay.
think it is beautiful. I think it is gorgeous.
The art.
It's stunning. I have the one with the miniatures, the Kickstarter version, and I wanted to like it very much because I love the short story. Unfortunately, I played with somebody and we proved a point where he paid no attention during the whole game and let it be random and then won at the end. So they didn't balance for all of what you're supposed to be doing with the time and the movement and planning things out accordingly.
Right.
They didn't balance the randomization. And for somebody who plays and designs a lot of games that have a lot of randomization, being able to completely check out during the game and then the last round still be able to win makes it a no-go for me. But it is stunning. It is stunning. And thematically, they spent a lot of time making sure the theme made sense.
And Chris, he has had a chance to play Blessed Dark, and I think that out of the 3 that are in the Poketto collection right now, that was his favorite. And again, it was my favorite. And I had several people tell me, well, if it was just reskinned, like into the Blessed Light, I'm like, dude.
So funnily enough, the people who have played it have all told me that I would like it.
That's great. You probably will like.
So I'm super excited for it to fund and so that I can get it.
Absolutely. Well, let's see here. What is going on with me this week? It's been a real kind of quiet week. Like there's been too much going on overall. So here we go. Same kind of thing as last week. We're still, there's more talk of development of the solo modes. And Mint Cooperative is now in hands of people. It's popping up all over the internets in the wild, and it's been really cool to see that. I did an unboxing on YouTube, and I went ahead and linked that down in the comments, in the description box, so you can see that. I talked a little bit about all the design components and how we like a lot of the behind the scenes things that went into it, some of the cool little did you knows, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and it's really amazing to see something in hand that you worked so hard on. So I know this lady. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Da 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 da.
Yeah, we end on Monday. So it's the final countdown.
Final count. Okay. Yes. And she has been, I mean, this is remnants of sanity that are left here. Like this is
so we're talking about like what are the final stretch goals? What's the final push of what we're doing? So getting media out there. Of course, all our reviewers have posted their stuff. So it's more a matter of just getting that last 48-hour push to see what we're going to end with, which is actually pretty exciting because the art book is almost funded. The next stretch goal is having the really cool insert. So I got to show, some people that's not going to be very exciting. For me, seeing how organization can work and all of the geometry that fits everything is just it's so sexy to me. I'm sorry. I know. So that's after that.
You're making the blood rush.
So yes, that's where we're at. That's where we're at, and it ends on Monday.
Oh my God. Awesome. Okay, well, we all are out to our shout out. Shout out to Miss Amy Baio. Super excited. You're right. Dang it. I even have it written out. Baio. Amy Baio. Amy is lovely. She's a game designer and a publisher from Portland, Oregon. She runs Pink Tiger Games and publishes You Think You Know Me and Flatter Me, 2 amazing games. Sort of, what's the word? Like they're kind of party games, but I'm just fascinated by how they're working out. She and her husband also run XOXO Fest, if you are familiar with that on the West Coast. And that's really cool. I had the pleasure of chatting over a cup of coffee earlier this week with her and just learned all about her entry into the industry. And she was absolutely wonderful. And I just wanted you all to know who she is as well. And I think that she is in the comments this morning too. So everybody welcome and say hi to her. So next week.
Next week.
Okay, so this is important. Do you want to tell them like what their assignments are for the week?
Oh, so next week is the Q&A. So we are going to look back at how we have grown as show hosts in the past 2 months, but we would love to hear from you what questions you might have about what suggestions you have of where we can go going forward, what topics you would like us to cover in future seasons.
Right.
All that good stuff.
And if you, like, as you watched this season, we covered 8 different topics. Was there anything that you guys wanted to know more about? We, ask a clarifying question, find out if we have more, maybe something has happened in the last couple weeks that, we would have more to say on a subject. What is it that you think you would like to talk about next week? And please give us content, because we will.
And we're just going to watch our old videos and cringe.
Yeah, we're going to be like, oh, did you see that? Yes, and Amy, I love that you're putting in your links in there. Good girl. I have all of them also in the description box. Not necessarily the game. I put the Instagrams on there because she's super awesome on Instagram. So, your homework is to send us a message, either a private message on You're Invited. You can send one to Julie or I on social media. We could be crazy and you could email
them. I don't recommend carrier pigeon. They don't work well at all.
Yes, no owls from Hogwarts, please. Those tend to run into the big window I have and then just get confused and fly off. But live with Rachel and Julie at gmail.com is also another way to get a hold of us. We're here. Everybody knows how to get a hold of us. We're easy. So please tell us questions, and we cannot wait to hear from you.
So thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yes, and you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest. Links are in the description box below.
Enjoy your Friday and your Halloween, and remember, next week, you're invited.
You are invited.